You're listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, hosted by Aaron Walker and Heather Dyer. Tune in weekly to get inspired and make good food.
The thing is, I went down to the freezer and I was looking around. I'm like, what have I gotten here for dinner? I don't know. And then I was like, maybe I should just pull these shanks out. So that's what got me down this path. Okay.
I'm really excited about this. We should probably do like an intro piece now.
Just leave it the way it is. Welcome to Three Kitchens Podcast. It's already underway. You're joining us mid-conversation.
Yeah. We can barely hit the record button with our thoughts. They're just running.
This was an impromptu recording because, as I just said, I decided last minute, I'm going to cook some beef shanks. And what do you do with shanks, Erin?
I think you said you were going to make Osso Buco.
I think it's kind of almost the only thing people do with shanks, or the most popular, perhaps.
Right.
Not the only, just the most popular.
And I think we also, when we got the meat from Charlotte, it was a cut that she said, not very many people know this cut, but it's delicious. And she liked it in Osso Buco and really encouraged us to make this from our wonderful little meat package that we got from her.
Yeah, so this was meat that was gifted to us from Chatsworth Farm, and I'm really excited to cook it. So Osso Buco, it's Italian, if you didn't know that language I was speaking. My accent didn't give it away.
No, the accent didn't give it away.
I'm sure Italians are like, oh, listen to the way that woman says it. Okay, so I just did a quick little bit of research before we hopped on here. Not a lot, so, if you're looking for the history of Osso Buco, you come to the wrong place. But osso apparently means bone.
Okay.
And buco means hole.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
whole as in W-H-O-L-E or whole as in H-O-L-E?
H-O-L-E.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you look at a shank, it's the upper part of the leg of a cow, and it's cut kind of cross section like a steak. It looks like a big steak with a round bone in the middle of it.
It's a gorgeous cut of meat. Like, it looks really beautiful.
It's quite marbled, and
yeah.
Apparently it can be a little bit tough, which is why braising it is the best technique, and that is how this dish is made. You want to cook it slow and braise it for a long time so that like the bone marrow can seep out into your dish and the meat falls apart, and that's why the bone is important, I think.
Okay. Well, I guess as it cooks, it kind of like, it's almost like making its own little broth as the bone goes into the liquid, maybe?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I read that the bone marrow is traditionally dug out of the bone at the end, so it won't all come out, but you want to get it out somehow because that's delicious stuff in there.
Oh gosh, yes.
Traditionally, it's dug out using a long-handled spoon. I'm going to attempt an Italian word here. It's called an essatore. I probably said that wrong.
Okay.
And that translates to tax collector, which I thought was really cute.
Are you sure you didn't just pronounce it so bad that Google told you it was the wrong thing?
I didn't even attempt the Google
okay.
pronunciation thing. I just read it, and it looks to me like essatore, and it's apparently means tax collector, which I thought was so cute. It's like, I think the cook should be the tax collector. So everybody hand over your bones.
Yes.
If you get one on your plate, hand it back to the cook, who gets to scoop out the marrow and eat it herself. Because
I was going to say, when you dish it out, you just kind of like scoop out the marrow and then place it on the plate for someone.
just keep the bones for yourself, whoever's cooking, and just serve the meat.
So what kind of stuff is in this? What are your veggies? What's your base that you're making this in? Because I don't think I've ever eaten or attempted this dish.
Me either. So this will be new to both of us. In fact, I always thought that Osso Buco was made with oxtail, which it can be done with. And I think traditionally, like the original earliest recipe, I guess, was with veal shanks.
Oh, okay.
That would be quite a bit smaller, I would think.
Right.
So maybe in that case, each person would get a nice little bone on their
Right.
plate.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we have beef shanks and we have two of them. So perhaps you and I should have the bones. I don't have a tax collector spoon.
I will come by
Yeah,
to collect the
but
tax.
use a knife or something and scoop it
Oh,
out.
yeah.
So you're going to braise this dish. So I have found a recipe since it is quite warm out right now, and I have plans to be out for the afternoon. I thought I'm going to set it in the crock pot. So if you also are in a warm place, you don't have to wait till a cold winter's day to make osso buco. You could put this in your barbecue as well. Like if you put it in a Dutch oven in your barbecue if you're around, and you of course you can put it in your oven if it's not going to overheat your house, but I'm doing this one in the crock pot.
That sounds like a good way to cut the cost too by using a countertop appliance.
And just set it and forget it, of course. It's my favorite. Either in the slow cooker itself or probably in a separate pan. I think you start with like a separate pan and do chopped or minced onion, carrots, and celery.
Okay.
Is that called like the Holy Trinity or something? What's there's a name for it? I probably said
I feel
the
like
wrong
it's like the classic Italian base of like everything starts with onion, carrot, and celery.
Well, the Italian word is sofrito, but I think there's like also some English. I can't remember. So you're going to start with that in your frying pan. Then you're going to soften them, take them out and put them into the slow cooker. Then season your shanks with salt and pepper and dredge them in flour and then brown them on both sides in that same pan. And then take them out when they're lightly browned, put them on top of the vegetables that are in your slow cooker now, and mince garlic and put that on top of the meat. Then in that same frying pan, add white wine to deglaze your pan, tomato passata, which is like just basic tomato puree.
Okay.
Not so thick as paste, but not a sauce. Just pureed tomato, which you can buy in a can.
Okay, yeah. Or
jar.
they have like the big tall jars of it, don't they?
Yeah. And chicken stock. Bring that to a boil and scrape your pan. Then you're going to pour that over the meat in the slow cooker and set it for 8 hours.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. So it's a tomato white wine base, basically, for your braising. And I think I'm probably going to throw some herbs in there. I think because it's sitting, I've got some thyme and rosemary, and I think those would be good.
That does sound good.
Just put a couple of stems in there. And traditionally it's served with risotto. But I'm not making risotto. I will not have time. The whole point is that I'm putting it to cook while I'm out. And risotto takes a bit of time and attention that I won't have tomorrow. But that does sound really delicious. I really like maybe a mushroom risotto.
Yeah.
Or something with saffron in it. Or like, I can just imagine it would be really delicious with a risotto.
Yeah, that does sound. Oh, I like that.
Maybe I'll do mashed potatoes.
Ooh, mashed potatoes might be good.
I think you could also just, I mean, whatever you would serve with like a stew or braised meat.
Ooh, sometimes I like egg noodles. Kind of like when I make a goulash, I like to do egg noodles with it. And these flavors are kind of reminding me of that.
Yeah, just put that over the noodles.
Okay, I went and Googled.
Okay, what did you?
Your Holy Trinity.
Oh.
The Holy Trinity is the trio of onion, celery, and green bell pepper.
Oh.
And that's what's used in Cajun and Creole dishes. But I think the mirepoix is like the French base of things. The sofrito is this
That's right.
one. And so, yeah. So these are all so the Holy Trinity applies to Southern United States cooking.
Cajun. Okay.
Cajun cooking.
Cool. Mirepoix or sofrito. Well, in this case, we're talking Italian.
Yeah.
So it's the sofrito. I also read that it is served with a condiment on the plate, which is finely chopped parsley, garlic, and lemon zest.
Oh.
I read it after I'd been to the store, and I don't recall if I have fresh parsley. So I may or may not have that for us. I'm thinking, though, that like raw garlic just chopped like that might be a bit harsh. I'm not sure. I do like the idea of the lemon, though.
That's interesting. Yeah, like I'm trying to figure out this lemon flavor with these with this tomato-based sauce flavor? Because this isn't the first time we've seen lemon with tomato-based sauces, and
Mhm.
it's making me curious.
Maybe all you need is just a squirt
Oh,
of lemon over your dish. There's something about when I read the lemon zest, I thought, oh, that makes sense to me. I don't know. It sounds good.
interesting.
And that's called a gremolata, the
Oh,
condiment.
look at all these words.
You're learning all the Italian. Okay, one more little fun research bit that I will share, and we will see if it's true. There was an American poet named Billy Collins, and he wrote a poem called Osso Buco. He must have loved this dish so much because he wrote a poem all about it.
Can I just say it is my favorite thing ever that you are sharing another poem with us here on Three Kitchens podcast?
What other poem did I share?
You wrote your
Oh,
own little rhyme about the purple jam I made, and now here you are digging up more poetry. I love it.
I did not write even a word of this.
No, but you're sharing it.
I'm not going to read you the whole poem. It's just called Osso Buco by Billy Collins. And it's all about how he loves it so much. And then it says, by tonight, the lion of contentment has placed a warm, heavy paw on my chest, and I can only close my eyes and listen to the drums of woe throbbing in the distance and the sound of my wife's laughter on the telephone in the next room. Like he's just so... You should feel so content after eating this that it's like the lion's paw is on
like
your chest.
Just stay there. This is great. This is so great.
It inspires so much contentment. Well, we shall see if we are that content after eating crock-pot Osso Buco.
Hey listeners, I hope you're enjoying this fun episode. Did you know you can find this recipe on our website? We post all the recipes for each episode on threekitchenspodcast.com, and we even include recipes that we're not making for the podcast, just things we make every day in our kitchen. Leave a comment, tell us what you like about the recipe, or what you don't like, or how you zhuzhed it up. You can find the link in our show notes, or type it in, threekitchenspodcast.com.
All right, so let's talk about slow cooker Osso Buco.
Did we record a first half for this already?
Uh-huh. Do you remember the poem?
Oh, right. Hi. Thanks for showing up, Erin.
So we talked in the first half about the sofrito, the onion, carrot, and celery. We talked about the bone marrow, digging it out with the spoon, called the tax collector. We talked about the poem being described as the lion of contentment placing a warm, heavy paw on your chest.
That's right. Thank you for summarizing this for my very lacking brain.
No problem.
Okay.
All right.
I'm ready to talk about it now.
Excellent. Don't edit out all of this because it's good. For this Osso Buco, we talked in the first half about the cuts of meat. And what you might be picturing is that cut that looks kind of like a steak with a circular bone in the middle of it.
Right.
And often if you look up recipes and you see pictures, the Osso Buco, you have that nice round bone in there. My Shanks did not have that. They're bigger, kind of oval shaped, and almost like a T-bone shaped bone in them.
It was really big, so it must have been higher up on that leg piece, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Charlotte, if you're listening, you're the Three Kitchens podcast resident beef expert. Please put a comment on it on socials and tell us maybe the difference. Okay, so my beef shanks looked a little bit different, but if that's the case with what you've bought as well, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. What you want is that delicious beef, and I think because it has a bone, you're getting the flavor of anytime you cook the meat with the bone, you're getting more depth of flavor from it. So so don't worry about the bone shape. And because mine were big and I'm putting it into, first of all, browning it in the skillet and then putting it into my crock pot. They were too big. I had to cut
Oh,
I had to
dang.
cut them. So I had two large shanks. I had to cut them into 4 pieces.
Wow.
Also, not a problem. I had about 3 pounds, or what is that in kilos? A kilo and a half ish, if I got that right,
Yeah.
of shanks. Doesn't matter. Roughly 4 large pieces, which is what I had. What you're going to do first is chop your onion, a couple of carrots, a couple stalks of celery, and saute them to soften them in a skillet with a bit of butter and olive oil. And I would suggest cast iron
Mm,
because I think it's the best to brown the meat, which is what you're going to do next. And there's no sense using 2 pans. So you may as well just start out with your cast iron pan.
absolutely.
Yep. Okay, so you're going to soften your vegetables a little bit. That's your sofrito, as we determined in the first half. Remember, we talked about sofrito versus mirepoix versus
Wait, what was that word you just said?
nothing.
Damn
I
it.
don't remember. And the other one was the Jamaican
The three,
Holy Trinity.
Holy Trinity.
Right?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
We were comparing all of these different household names or
Common terms for
yeah,
when you get
put
your
three things together.
yeah, as a base. We also kind of just on a tangent, as we do here.
Let's do
We
it.
also heard something about this one. We were chit-chatting at the farmers market with a woman who does from Quebec, who was telling us about Quebecois cooking. And they have something similar as well, where it's like the base of just about every recipe
That's right.
has this.
What was that?
It's just all to say that it's a common starting point. Okay. Oh, you can also just do this directly in your crock pot. If you have like an instant pot that's also a slow cooker, you can use the saute
right.
function and do it directly in the pot. But I still think the best is to brown the meat
Yeah.
in cast iron. So I would say whether you put the veggies and saute them in the pot or in the cast iron, doesn't matter, but do your meat in the cast iron because I think it's better.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's that extra little step that just makes such a difference in the flavor of your meat. And I find the texture too. So highly recommend it.
So then when you've taken your veggies out and put them in the crock pot, you want your pan medium to high heat, a little bit of oil in there, and salt and pepper your shanks
Okay.
on both sides, dredge them in flour, and then
Ooh.
brown them on each side, 2 to 3 minutes. Kind of depends how hot your pan is. You're not looking to cook your meat, you're just looking to brown to give it a bit of extra flavor. And as they're done, take it out and put it into the crock pot. So I couldn't fit all my meat in the pan again at once. So I think I did like 3 pieces and then I had an extra piece. So as they're done, put them in on top of the vegetables. Okay, so once your meat is in on top of the vegetables, you're going to crush 3 cloves of garlic and sprinkle that on top of the meat. And then back in your cast iron fry pan, you're going to put half a cup of white wine and let it come to a boil. And then stir in your tomato passata, which is what we talked about. It's just pureed tomato, and 1.5 cups of chicken stock.
Okay.
That's the braising liquid that you're going to put into your crock pot. So you're just going to get it to boil and then you're going to pour it over your meat. I also had some fresh herbs that were needing to be used or processed in some way. So I had a little bundle of rosemary and thyme that I just tied together with kitchen twine and I threw that in the pot.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong with that. And because it was still all on the stems and everything, I just tied it together so I can pick it back out at the end.
I love a good little herb bundle.
What'd you say?
Nothing.
Okay, so you're going to put your lid on. You're going to set your crock pot on high for 6 hours or low for 8. I actually have 3 settings on my slow cooker, so I put it on medium.
Oh,
I don't know. I do pretty much everything in the crock pot on medium. And I just left it for 8 hours. I set it for 8, and I think it may have even been in there a little bit longer because I went away for the afternoon and I was off doing things. And
you set it and you forget it.
That's exactly how you do it. And that's it. And then when it's done, it's just, you can stick your fork in there. You can put a spoon in there and just like falls apart. Like it just,
Yeah.
obviously take your herb bundle back out, separate the fat from the meat so you're not getting a big mouthful of. And there you go. And I just made some plain mashed potatoes that we had it with, and some green beans, and that was our dinner. So it's very simple, as crock pot recipes should be.
Yeah.
You could also do this on your stove, or probably on your barbecue, or in your oven if you want to do like if you have a Dutch oven that you can put a lid on. Because I was leaving the house, the slow cooker was the way to go. But if you were there and you can keep an eye on it, you could also do it in a different way.
Is your crock pot also an instant pot? Is your instant pot? It's the all-in-one one? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I still don't have one of these devices, so I'm always curious as to.
I've heard the company is like going under.
Oh no.
After all the hype. So maybe you're fine.
Uh-oh.
Well, what did you think of your Osso Buco?
What did I text you? Also good.
The Osso Buco is also good.
Oh my gosh. I loved the texture of the meat when it came out of there. Like it must be a really well marbled piece of meat and has a lot of like good fat in it, because every piece was so juicy. Like sometimes, and I find I struggle with this, is when you're making one of those slow cooker all day things, sometimes I'm disappointed by the texture of the meat at the end. It's soft but dry.
Yeah,
I don't know if that ever happens to you. This was not this meat, and I don't know if it was because of the cut of meat. I've never cooked with Shanks before, so I cannot wait to try this. I now get the poem. The poem is very fitting, because as I gobbled this down and barely paused enough to taste it because it was just so damn good, I felt like that warm, comforting, full tummy, and I was like, this is the lion's paw.
That's the lion of contentment resting his paw on you.
Absolutely. I just wanted to like lie back down in bed and
It's definitely comfort food.
wow.
It's
No
the
kidding.
definition of comfort food.
I think so.
And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. There was nothing in there that you wouldn't just have. You don't even have to do the herb bundle thing if you don't. You could put some dried herbs, maybe add them to the flour when you dredge your meat, or just sprinkle them into the liquid. You could do this however you like to do a braising. You could add more vegetables or different vegetables, probably. I like that the sofrito kind of just becomes part of the sauce.
Oh,
like
it
all those
totally
vegetables just disappear into it, but give it some texture too.
Yeah, I cannot wait to make this for my family because I did not share with them.
There wasn't a lot, I have to say. That sounded like so much because they were such big pieces, but as things do when they cook down like that and the bones come out, then it's not actually as much meat as you think you're going to have. So don't be like, oh no, I think one shank will do it. No. It's not
all
like
the meat.
We had 4 servings at my house, and then Aaron had a serving. Like that was pretty much. There was a tiny little. I had like maybe it was like a quarter cup of meat that I like squirreled away so that I could enjoy it again, like the next day by myself. So I could be like, and actually I thought it was even better leftover, kind of like the way you had it. I thought it's one of those things that just gets better.
It just gets better with time. Yeah, this is a really good recipe. I would highly recommend anybody to go and get some shanks. We know that you can get them from Charlotte at Chatsworth's because this was some of our
Chatsworth Farm meat. Yeah, it's really good.
And it was delicious. So find your local butcher if you're not here with us and totally do this.
I would like to try it with oxtail. I've never had it. Like I've never bought that cut of meat.
I've never bought that cut of meat, no.
And so you'd have to look at how big they are and what kind of weight you've got, because I think you'd need more. It seems to me they're small, right?
That's what I'm picturing in my mind right now, is I'm trying to figure out how big an oxtail would be. But yeah, no, this is such a good recipe. Such a good recipe. I really, really liked the flavors in this. And it's simple stuff. It's not hard to find.
Yeah. And I think if you don't have chicken stock, I always have it because I make it when I roast a chicken. I just keep the bones and then I make a big pot of stock. We all know Erin is like the queen of chicken stock. If you want a recipe for stock, we got it on the website.
There you go.
You can certainly use store-bought. If you have beef broth, that would be just as good. Even veggie broth.
Yeah.
But also, it doesn't really matter. It's not like you're tasting the broth. So you can mix that up. If you want to just use water, if you were like, I've forgotten, I don't have any broth, just put water in there, maybe a bit more tomato or something to kind of boost it. But I think the wine is like an essential. We've talked about this before. I love wine in cooking. You could do red if you don't have white.
Yeah, I feel like even recipes that don't have wine in it, if I'm frying something up in a pan and browning it, I'm always tossing in some sort of wine just to like scrape that browning and get that liquid really nice and
I always have a
tasty.
bottle of that cooking sherry
Yes.
in my pantry because then I'm not tempted to drink it and it's not going bad. So I always have that. You can just put a splash of that in there and deglaze your pan with it.
Yeah.
I also think like mushrooms would be really good in here because I love a slow cooked mushroom. That would be really delicious. You could just make it your own. And actually the night that I cooked it, so I'd come home and a friend of ours was here in the gym and she was like, what are you cooking? It smells so good. Because I had just come home and I was like opening the pot and whatever as she was like saying hello. And so she had just a little taste like with a fork right from like the slow cooker. And she was like, this would be so good with egg noodles. Like you need to serve this with noodles or rice.
I'm going to be tucking into this in the fall for sure.
Because you don't have a crock pot. And then maybe we can add to the recipe after you've done that. And we can let people know what's the best way to.
I'll be using the braising method in the salt, fat, acid, heat cookbook because that's what I go off of every time.
And how does it differ? I can't remember.
It's pretty much all the same, except for instead of tossing it into the crock pot, you're just layering it into a larger Dutch oven or pan or pot, and you're just tossing it into your oven at a low temperature.
Yeah.
So I'll cook it at like 250, 260.
All day.
Yeah.
The worst is when you've done that and then it's still like not fork tender. And I'm like, what did I do? Yeah.
Then you just have to wait longer. And that's the hard part. And it's weird because it gets to that point where it's not good and it sits there for a really long time and then it falls down and is good. And getting that right is, I don't know yet.
Well, and I've also found that depending on the cut of meat, sometimes it's too big. And before you start, you should cut it into smaller pieces. And I don't mean cutting my shank, which is already kind of a thinner piece. I mean, like if you had a roast, cut it into smaller chunks. They'll cook a little better.
Or make sure it's bone in so that the bone's in the middle, because I find that helps.
Yeah, because the bone heats up and helps cook it from the inside.
Yeah. And then it's your best indicator that it's done because the bone will just slip out and then you know it's go time. Yeah.
Go and eat time. Everybody make some Osso Buco.
Don't forget this recipe. This is a gooder.
Yeah, so good. And now for the fine print. Join us over on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And on our website at threekitchenspodcast.com. Word of mouth is the #1 way people find a new podcast. And remember, when you like, follow, subscribe, and leave a review, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for jumping on and doing a last-minute recording so that I can cook it tomorrow. You know me, planning ahead.